Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And my cold is still with me, so I still sound a little bit wonky, but you know what? The show must go on. And so today we're going to have so much fun talking with my guest because we're talking about planning for the future in a way that many business owners never, ever even think about. And then they get to that future point and they think, holy cow, now what do I do? So please join me in welcoming Justin Goodbread to our program today. Welcome, Justin.
Thanks for having me, Deb. Look forward to the conversation about where we're headed and hopefully going to add some insight to us business owners.
Perfect, perfect. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you. So Justin A. Goodbread, CFP, CEPA, CVGA, owner of financiallysimple.com, is a nationally recognized financial planner, financial educator, wealth manager, author, speaker, and entrepreneur. He has more than 20 years of experience starting, buying, owning, and selling businesses. Justin is a two-time winner of the Investopedia Top 100 Advisor Award and Exit Planning Institute's Exit Planner Leader of the Year. Recently, Justin published his first book, The Ultimate Sale. In it, he shows business owners how to create long-term value and accelerate growth in their company with the ultimate goal of selling the business for top dollar when the owner wants to retire. So again, Justin, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Deb.
Well, let's back up just a little bit. Tell
Okay.
us how it is that you got to where you are today.
Oh, that's a fun story. So I grew up in South Georgia, a little bit further south than you are, there in
Mhm.
Atlanta. I often say Atlanta's not Georgia, by the way, Deb.
I know it's
it's
not.
huge.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so down on the coast of Georgia, Brunswick, St. Simon's Island's a real popular name that people would recognize. About an hour above Jacksonville, Florida, for those of you who are not familiar with the U.S., and about an hour below Savannah, Georgia. On the ocean, born and raised down there, grew up on a swamp, believe it or not, had alligators in the backyard, and just lived life as a typical country boy.
Mhm.
Mom and dad homeschooled us, so I was homeschooled the majority of my life. At the age of 15, my dad, in a nice way, said, son, get a job or don't come home.
Uh-oh.
It was a family. We were like the Walton family that you would
Mhm.
see, the picturesque, real close-knit
Right.
family. And Dad was trying to teach myself, my
Mhm.
brother, my sister, and I, the value of being a business owner as
Yes.
opposed at that particular point doing what he did, which was not wrong. It's a very noble job. He worked for the Georgia Port Authority.
Mm-hmm.
And through his training, he showed me and my brother and my sister that we could actually produce more revenue for ourselves and our families working for ourselves as business owners, as opposed to, as he said, using his terms, the country boy style, working for the man.
Yep, he
so to
worked
speak.
for the man.
Work for the man, right? You've heard the lingo. So about age 15, my mom and dad, we, long story short, we ended up starting a little grass cutting business that we called Lawn Care by the Boys. And it grew. It grew because of basic knowledge. My mom and dad had gone through Amway's training way back in the day.
And they were fabulous.
Oh, unbelievable. Really good principle training for small business owners. And they started teaching us those same concepts at the age of 15. By the age of 18, getting ready to go to college, I was actually my brother and I were making more than my parents. My mom was a master's nurse working at the hospital. My dad worked full time after 20 years at the port. We were making more in 3 years' time being self-employed than our parents were. And we ended up selling the business. That was the first business we sold. Went to school. We didn't want to go to school. They forced us to go to college.
Right.
They said, son, you got to get a ticket to go in the stadium to play the game. It doesn't matter what position you play. You got to get a ticket. So we sold the business. And long story short, I met this beautiful young lady who changed my life. My name is Emily. Those who listen to our podcast knows all about Miss Emily. We sold our business and after college moved up to Tennessee. Now where I'm located in Knoxville. Came in the financial world, didn't like it too much. Didn't want to be, candidly, I didn't want to be a stock trader, insurance guy, none of those things. If
Mm-hmm.
I had to sell ice, I could not do it in the middle of the desert. I am not skilled at selling. So fell into the avenue of business ownership once again. Sold that business, started another business, sold the business. And now in 2009, after 3 successful business sales for profit, I found out where I was meant to be, and that is the world that I now live in, teaching business owners how to double their net worth every 3 to 5 years and position themselves where they are not the man, so to speak, that my dad
Mm-hmm.
did not want to work for, but rather they're that business owner who is adding maximum value to themselves and to the employees and the customers and the vendors that whom they have the privilege to serve
Mm-hmm.
alongside with. So that's kind of in a nutshell how I reach where I'm at today, if that helps.
Right. I love it. And what I love is y- you don't just teach it. You've done all of these things. And so you know what it's like to start a business from scratch and take it all the way through selling it or making it a very successful business. And I shouldn't have emphasized or, because those two are definitely not
Right.
mutually exclusive. And that was what struck me when I was reading your book. And again, it's called The Ultimate Sale, a financially simple guide to selling a business for maximum profit. And what struck me as I was reading it, Justin, was the fact that it applies to any business owner. Whether you're thinking, hey, I'm going to sell my business or not, because it's full of just really great tips and techniques to make your business successful. Um, and so that was what I really enjoyed about it was, it really did. And you say a financially simple guide. It is fairly simple. I mean, a lot of basic, simple things, but so many things that business owners don't stop to think about. And it doesn't matter if you're the one person shop or if you have 10, 20, 30, 40,000 employees. All of the things play into it. And it is about, having good sound business practices, having a business plan, knowing what you're doing when you're hiring employees. All of these various things that as a business owner, we should be doing all the time, whether it's with that goal of in 20 years, I'm going to sell my business, or just, hey, I want to have another great year this year.
Yeah, the way I view business, Deb, is this. You have a starting point, you have a growing point, and then you have an exodus. We're all
Mhm.
going to leave our business, whether or not
Right.
we're solopreneurs is the term that I like to use, where
Mhm.
it's just that one man shop, one
Mhm.
lady shop that you
Mhm.
and I, Juju was just talking about, whether or not we have a small practice or small business where
Mhm.
maybe you're the artisan contractor who's going out and doing HVAC work, putting in
Mhm.
just really good trade style.
Right.
Maybe you're in a professional organization like I have, where you have 20, 30, 40 employees. Maybe you're a manufacturing business. It doesn't matter what we do as a business owner, from that solopreneur to hundreds of employees. We still have that starting point where we
Mhm.
enter the business world. We have that growth point to what is it we're trying to actually accomplish. And then regardless, we're going to leave the business through
Mhm.
death, disability,
Mhm.
through divorce sometimes,
Right.
unfortunately, through just retirement at some point.
Mhm.
So the ultimate sale was the actual, the end of the book, the end of the chapter, so to speak, of a 3-part series. I wanted to show people that you have to know where you're going before you can ever start, or you have to know where you're going before you can improve. So I use my own, I call it, I'm just an old country boy. Like I said, I ran around barefoot chasing alligators. It's who I am.
I'm from the mountains and of Colorado, so yeah, I
Yeah,
get it. Mhm.
I just spent a week in Nebraska and Kansas sitting on top of a hill watching deer run by. It just
Mhm.
had a blast. So I like to take things and explain it in such a way with the knowledge that I have of almost 25 years now with multiple credentials, master level credentials,
Mhm.
trying to explain it where my 13-year-old, 14-year-old daughter can understand, hey,
Mhm.
here's what we're dealing with. So I use a
Right.
lot of stories. I use
Mhm.
a lot of life events.
Mhm.
I like to say if there's anything in business that we can go through, I've gone through it personally.
Mhm.
I've dealt with just about everything, and I mean everything that you can
Mhm.
think of, from wrongful accusations to defending to hiring to firing to growth to retraction. I've gone through business cycles in 2001, 2008. I was a financial person in 2008. Trust me, that
Oh,
was fun.
oh.
Okay. Growing a business. So the goal ultimately, though, after all that rambling I just did, is this. We're going to leave our business.
Mhm.
And what the sad part to me is this. According to the Exit Planning Institute, which if you're not familiar with it, it's something that every business owner should be familiar with. They do a lot of national
Mm.
research for us
Mhm.
business owners. They've actually done market studies off a lot of metropolitan areas showing that business owners, for us, you and I even, that 80% of our business, 80% of our net worth is our business.
Mhm.
Whether if we're a solopreneur, then it is us.
Right.
We are the person who is responsible for producing
Mhm.
that income. And what's sad to me is that in my financial world, when one of our companies called Heritage Investors, and I'm a CEO of, whenever we meet with the business owners at age 50, 60, 70 even, they have no assets.
Right.
They poured blood, sweat, and tears into this company to
Mhm.
change the world. Charge hell with a water pistol is what my mom always said. I mean, they're doing it. They're
Mhm.
out there doing what they love, and then they find themselves unable, either physically or mentally, unable or unwilling even to do that job anymore, and they're
Mhm.
broke
Right.
because they poured so much
Mhm.
out to their vendors, to their customers, to
Mhm.
their employees, to their team
Right.
members, that they forgot to take care of themselves. It's almost
Mhm.
like that old saying, the cobbler's kid's shoes are never shod,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So the idea behind the ultimate sale was, hey folks, I'm a business owner. I get it. I know
Mhm.
what it's like to try to sell a business. I've
Mhm.
done it 3 times successfully. I've tried it a couple times unsuccessfully. I also know what it's like to see multiple, dozens, hundreds of clients who are now reaching the end of their production phase and they're broke
Mhm.
and they can't realize this dream. So the idea with the ultimate sale was, hey folks, if we're going to disturb the present, or if we're going to change the present, we have to disturb if we're going to change the future, we have to disturb the present.
Mhm.
We have to make drastic changes. So that was the whole idea around the book, was to write it in such a way where it does impact so many people.
Right. And one of the things I think that's important, especially for solopreneurs, is that concept of y- taking care of yourself. And because we put every penny back into the business.
Right.
Whatever it is, where it doesn't matter if it is a lawn care business or
Right.
public speaking or whatever it is, we put the money back into it. We might excuse me, we might upgrade our equipment.
Right.
We might join other organizations. There's so many ways that you can be putting the money back into your business, and you forget to
Mm-hmm.
pay yourself. And I've even seen that with companies that have, employees,
Mm-hmm.
where now, grant I do firmly believe that the employees get paid first.
Yes.
But at the same point, you have to be paying yourself. And maybe it's not paying in the standard, terms, but, there are so many ways that you should be preparing for the future, because you never know when that business, as you said, that might end. Say you're a public speaker and good golly, something happens to your voice, or, you get bought out, or, all sorts of things. And that could end. You might not really be ready to retire yet. Or even if you are, Social Security ain't gonna cut it.
Yeah, so you're dealing with a little bit of the financial world there. One of the things I like to describe to people, especially business owners, is a concept that's in one of my top 5 books called The Richest Man in Babylon. It's
Hmm.
a great book, and if anybody's listening to this and never read the book, I highly recommend it. I read that book every year along with 4 others. What they teach in that is to pay yourself first. And it
Hmm.
talks about the advantage of paying yourself first. One of the things I try to instill on young business owners, or even those business owners who maybe have never taken care of their
Hmm.
person, is to the first X number of dollars. What I like to try to do is, if it's a single individual, max out your 401k. You can do
Hmm.
20 grand. If you max out you put 20 grand in a 401k for 15, 20 years, regardless of the business ever sells, you're
Right.
going to be far better off than if
Hmm.
you never did it. If you're a married couple, there's no reason why you can't save $50,000 a year of your income if you're making over 100,
Hmm.
150,000, if you know how to use the taxes. And that's the world
Hmm.
I play in. If you know how to play the tax game, you can actually make $150,000
Hmm.
and pay virtually no taxes,
Right.
which means that you can put back a third of your income.
Hmm.
And then if your business ever sells once again, then you're financially set. If you even want to work to age
Hmm.
70, 80, 90, it doesn't matter. I'm not dealing with this idea of retirement is get all we can all we get, and sit on our can. That's not the idea that I have in mind as
Hmm.
a guy who's, like I said, going to charge hell with a water
Hmm.
pistol. But if we don't take care of ourselves first, we lose the power of compounding interest, whether it be
Hmm.
in our personal investment portfolio, whether it's stocks, bonds, real estate, et cetera, or whether it's in our business itself. So the idea behind the ultimate sale is that wherever we're at today, take a break.
Mhm.
And where do you want to be?
Mhm.
So as I mentioned, an analogy I often give whenever even on my own podcast is this. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee. My wife and I want to go to Portland, Oregon. For some reason, we always pick Portland, Oregon. We want to go out there. Never been there. If I were going to go to Portland, Oregon, I've already reached the hardest decision that most business owners have to figure out is where are they going?
Right.
So if we can pause and say, okay, I want to go to Portland, Oregon. Now I can determine when, how am I going to get there? How much am I going to spend? What am I going to do? What are the contingency plans for that particular destination? What happens in the world of business, especially those of us who maybe are starting a business or the founders of our businesses, is we find something we love, the American dream. We find something we love, or we find a need that we're good at filling, and we start a business, and before you know it, we're 15, 20 years into business. We have gone through a lot of stuff, and we're no far better off than we were when we started, reaching that ultimate destination, wherever it may be. So the idea behind the ultimate sale was, hey, look, folks, Debbie, you mentioned earlier, just pause. What are we doing this for? Why? I realize we want to make money. I get that.
Right.
I realize we want to service those people that we know, our, as I say, the team, the customers, the vendors, those in people that God's allowed us to impact or bless in there through our journey. But why? Where are we headed? And if we can identify that, then now you can say, well, do I need to grow the value of my company? Do I need to grow my individual value? Do I need to adjust my tax strategy? Do I need to, and you can make a list that keeps continuing there.
Right. So Justin, what do you tell the person who says, I'm going to do this till the day I die?
Tell me when you're going to die.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, but they're like, and part of it is, it's a mix. They love what they're doing and they can't imagine not doing it. They think I have to work forever. That's the only way I'm going to survive is if I work forever, or the future's so far off. I'm just not even going to plan for it. But, but I'm, so that is what they're doing rather than actually saying, okay, I'm going to do this until the day I die. It's I'm not going to plan.
Yeah, so one of my favorite verses in the book of Proverbs in the Bible is go to the ant, thy sluggard, and consider her ways and be wise. Okay, and Proverbs is all about being a wise individual. And no one that's listening to this podcast or wakes up in the morning says, I want to be unwise. We all want to use what God's given us to the best.
Today.
Yeah, that's not our journey. So go to the ant, thy sluggard, and consider her ways and be wise. The ant's pretty amazing. They realize that there's going to be a winter. There's going to be floods. There's going to be lightning strikes, which could destroy the anthill. There's going to be a country boy who's going to come by with a stick and stir them up and cause problems, right? They're going to have problems. I think anybody who's listening to this podcast, if we've lived more than one day on this great earth that we live on, we realize that life is troublesome sometimes. And the best laid plans never come to be. They never come to be. So I personally share that sentiment that I'm going to do what I do till the day I die. I don't believe in retirement. I don't think it's something that a business owner is wired to do. Personal opinion. That's just, I don't believe that it's something that I would be wired to. I think retirement is for those individuals who don't like their job or like their team members or like their vendors, like their customers. Personal opinion. So I share that idea that, man, I love what I'm going to do. I'm going to work with the die. To the day I die. Here's the problem. My mind, my body, I can't control that.
Right. Might say, no. We're going to at least slow down.
Yeah. I can't control there's a lot of stuff that I can't control. And I'm a pretty controlling individual, as you might already anticipate. There's a lot I can't control in my family. I went through some pretty hard times in my life, and I realize I'm young. I'm 40. People say, Justin, you're a 40-year-old going like 70. I gone through some sides of my life where I realized that you can be doing everything right, whatever that term means to you. And life, God, circumstances is going to throw a curveball at you and hit you in the back of the head sometimes. That being said, it's better to be prepared and never need it than to be unprepared. Well, that's why we have homeowners insurance. That's why we have car insurance, things of that nature. So I get the idea that we're going to grow the business. We're going to do it to the day I die. What if? And the insurance analogy that I would say is I've yet to meet a person in my career, and I've worked with thousands of individuals. I'm not bragging here, but I didn't get to be the top 100 in the United States by being a novice. I've worked with thousands of people over my lifetime, and I've yet to meet a person who are in that final chapters, the last 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years of their life, who said, man, I wish I would have saved less.
Right.
I wish I would have not done more. I wish I would have done less planning.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have taken less care of my vision in the future. I've never met anybody.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I've heard people that are very successful
Mm-hmm.
say, man, I wish I'd known what I know now when I was 10, when I was 20, when I was 30. I think you and I could both share that. So I understand the sentiment of, look, I'm going to do this till the day I die, therefore I don't need to plan. But if you pull the curtain back, like on the Wizard of Oz, and see the wizard behind the curtain,
Mm-hmm.
and you saw yourself, whoever you may be, in 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, you're going to say to yourself, I wish I would have done more sooner.
Right.
And so the CFP inside of me, Certified Financial Planner inside of me, says, let's get started now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure out how to take Uncle Sam's money and use it to our advantage.
Right.
Let's start there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure out how to make our business efficient. So not working harder, working smarter,
Right.
so we can take advantage there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I would answer that question.
Mm-hmm. Well, and, there's obviously, as we've been saying, nothing wrong with working until the day you die.
Right.
But wouldn't it be nice to really make sure it's on your terms? So I might decide, at some point I'm only going to work 2 days a week. And the rest of the time I'm going to enjoy, I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to do whatever. Maybe I'll work 5. It's funny, when we were talking before the program started, the fact that, for business owners like us, going on vacation, you really don't go on vacation. And it's funny because you address that in your book, the fact that, we need to make it so that other people can be doing what we do. And that is part of this. We shouldn't be working ourselves literally into the ground. And that is one of the biggest things that I got out of reading your book was the fact that without, excuse me, really killing a lot of brain cells, we can make sure that we're planning for a future that is what we want it to be, and rather than something that we're being forced to do.
One of the statements that I said along that, or one of the statements I heard, and I don't remember where I heard this at, Deb, is I read a book a week. I read articles. I read so much. And the older I get, my filing cabinet in my head is not keeping it all sorted properly for me. But I read a statement years ago that said, if your business requires you don't have a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the context of that statement. Again, I don't remember who it was, but it stuck with me. Many people who are especially in the solopreneur world, it's so reliant upon you that you are the business.
Right.
It's
like
basically,
me.
yeah. So it's a job more than a business. Now, and I'm using Robert Kiyosaki's term of business as an asset that produces income without us having to personally be involved in it. So let me clarify that, what I'm using that business for. If we're going to use that old adage, which I think Stephen Covey coined, of work on the business versus working in the business, right? It might have been Ogmengdino, one of those individuals, I think, coined that particular phrase. If we're going to do that, then we have to realize what actually drives the business. And there are 8 key areas of business. Whether you're a solopreneur or someone like me who has multiple businesses and multiple team members in that business and hundreds of thousands of customers, there's 8 key areas, and I'm going to give you these 8 areas, and this is actually the thesis of our second book come on its way. It should be out here.
Interview.
Oh, yeah. So this is coming out in early next year, I'm hoping. There's 8 key areas of business, and if you understand these 8 key areas of business, then you understand what makes a business valuable. So let's deal with value. Value is what something is appraised for by a third party, or what a willing buyer with full knowledge is willing to pay for that. So like a house has a value because we can see it, we can appraise it. Your business has a value. And if you understand what makes it valuable, then you can backwards engineer your business to make it where it is truly self-sustaining without you or I, these solopreneurs or the young business owners or the business owner with team members. So the 8 key areas can be, you can almost run them around a clock wheel. I know that a lot of people aren't going to watch this visually, but you're also going to be on audio format. So I'm going to try to put you around a clock wheel with 12 o'clock being our starting point.
Okay.
So at 12 o'clock, from 12 to, let's say, 2 o'clock, that is the planning section of business. Every business has to plan. You have to know where you're going to be in 1, 3, 5 years from now. A statement was said not too long ago that we business owners overestimate what we can accomplish in 1 year and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10.
Right.
I firmly believe that. In that planning world, we're looking at where are we at today and where do we want to be in 1 year, 3 years or 5 years. You
Mhm.
really don't want to go out past 5 years with our fast-moving tech world today. In
Mhm.
fact, I would even argue that you probably shouldn't even deal with 5
Mhm.
years, but some businesses should,
Right.
depending on the SIC code that they're in.
Mhm.
So we first have to do a planning. And then the second area of business that we deal with is leadership. Leadership amongst ourselves
Mhm.
and amongst our team, our customers, our clients, et cetera, our vendors, et cetera. How are we going to lead them to that
Mhm.
point? So that's our area on our clock phase from 1 to 3 o'clock.
Mhm.
So planning and leadership. And by the way, if you're familiar with the DISC, DISC model,
Mhm.
that is your high D personality. That's who I am.
Mm.
I'm a
Mhm.
planner. I'm a leader. You
Mhm.
got to have somebody in your organization who's a planner leader.
Mhm.
So that's the D personality. The next two areas of business is sales and marketing. And that goes from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock on the clock phase. Sales is, how do I convert somebody to a paying customer or client?
Mhm.
Marketing is, how do I get that potential
Right.
paying customer client to actually contact me?
Mhm.
So those are the entry points into a funnel, so to speak, the entry
Mhm.
points into our throughput, the operational side in a second. But the sales and marketing, it has to be mastered. One of the things I see in business owners, especially small business owners, small business as defined by less than 5 million in annual sales, according
Mhm.
to the Small Business Institute.
Right. Which
Okay.
is, I believe, 95% of all U.S. businesses.
That's correct. Yes. In fact, interestingly enough, there's 4.7 million business owners right now in the United States that fall in that particular area of 5 million businesses or less. I'm sorry, 5 million in revenue or less.
Mhm.
There's about 325,000 businesses that fall between that 5 million to 100 million. And then you
Mhm.
get to this 26,000 or so
Mhm.
of super large businesses like your
Right.
Walmarts and stuff. But in that small business area, there's 5 million or less. I see so many people fail to market. What we end up doing as business owners, because we never go back to our first step, planning,
Mhm.
we never did a marketing plan. We
Mhm.
go out and we throw money at a Facebook ad, or we throw money
Right.
at a phone book ad, or we
We're not
throw
sure
money.
why, but
We're
we're
not,
supposed to do that.
don't know why, but we do it. And we don't really stop and look at ROI. We don't look at hurdle rates as it applies to marketing. We don't look at our target market. We don't know who our persona is. So in a small business, that is the one area that I think we are so inundated with from a sales perspective of people trying to sell us things,
Mhm.
but we're all often lacking in sales and
Mhm.
marketing. Sales and marketing. Whenever I talk about sales, again, if you're a solopreneur or if you're the CEO of your company and you're the best sales guy, you are the rainmaker. Replace yourself.
Right.
Put it in a position where you do not have to be at the ethos, the center, the epicenter of this
Mhm.
pinwheel that I'm describing.
Mhm.
So sales and marketing are your second steps. And by the way, that is your I personality. If you're a strong I personality in this
Mhm.
model, then you're the fun-loving, jovial type person. The life
Mhm.
of the party, you walk in, you're fun-loved. That's your sales type person.
Mhm.
Okay. The next step from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, we deal with our people and operations.
Mhm.
The people that we surround ourselves with will change our life. In fact, I believe it was Charlie Tremendous Jones that said where you'll be 5 years from now is determined by the books you read and the people you associate with today.
Mm.
It might have been Zig Ziglar. One of those two individuals
Mhm.
said that.
One of those really smart
One of
people.
these really smart people,
Mhm.
a lot smarter than me. They said that where you'll be 5 years from now is determined by the people you surround
Mhm.
yourself with and the books you read
Mhm.
today. Those people that you employ or those people that you use as vendors,
Mhm.
those people that you take on as the customers whom you're going to sacrifice your time to,
Mhm.
those individuals have to be either trained or have systems in place that, again, you can duplicate your mind to
Mhm.
somebody else.
Mhm.
So even as a solopreneur, let's say that you're like Deb, so you have your solar business.
Mhm.
You found me as a podcast interview.
Mhm.
That is a process that you in your business should have outlined so that if somebody wants to take over your particular podcast or your particular empire in
Mhm.
15, 20 years, there now is a system that you have
Mhm.
found that works successful within your secret sauce that you can outline and put it into your business plan.
Mhm.
So that's the way you deal with people.
Mhm.
If you're going to hire team members, how do you hire them? What's the
Mhm.
process? If you're going to fire team members, if you're going to promote them, if you're going to hold them through contractual legal documents, how do you do it? That's the
Mhm.
people side. The operations, which is the second step in that. So this is number 6. Remember, planning,
Mhm.
leadership,
Mhm.
sales, marketing, people, operations.
Mhm.
Operations is perhaps the strongest point for most businesses.
Mhm.
I see that over and over. It actually scores very high on a lot of the national studies. It is actually, how do we get the customer once they said yes to where now they are paying for paying for the particular service we provide.
Mm-hmm.
Operations is the McDonald's story,
Mm-hmm.
right? The McDonald's brothers made a lot of hamburgers, but then Ray Kroc came along and taught a 16-year-old how to cook French fries without burning the restaurant down.
Right.
Correct? So operations is everything we do in our business is delineated down to a handbook, a workbook, a graphing book, some way
Mm-hmm.
so that we, the business owner,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to physically do it.
Mm-hmm.
And coincidentally, that is your S type personality. That's that person who likes checklist. They're the ones who think in step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. If you're that type of personality, then more than likely you have a strong operation system. On the opposite side, if you're like me, who is a high D personality, I don't think step 1, step 2, step 3. I'm like, hey,
Right.
let's go. We'll figure it out later.
I know. I hit 7 and think, oh, okay.
Yeah. So the high D personality, we have to have a high S.
Mm-hmm.
So then you get to the last 2 steps of business, and that is finance and legal. Finance and legal. I call these my bean counter friends.
Mm-hmm.
They're the high C personalities.
Mm-hmm.
These are the individuals who look at every dot and make sure it adds up correctly, make sure
Mm-hmm.
every T's crossed. Typically, they're going to be accountants, engineers, attorneys, things of that nature, and that's okay. Dentists follow the high C personality. I mean, they're dealing with small, micro things.
Mm-hmm.
In the finance world, it's not just reporting what we are earning or
Mm-hmm.
where we're spending our money. It's, should we buy this piece of equipment?
Right.
Like we were talking about earlier. If we're going to spend $50, $60, $100,000 on this piece of equipment, what does the hurdle rate have to be for us in order to make this an equipment a feasible purchase?
Mm-hmm.
Case in point, here's a case study. I used to say client things, but I'm going to say a case study that I can give you. I know an individual that wanted to buy an $18,000 piece of equipment, and he said, I'm going to take on a new job, and I'm going to get a $200,000 new job with his $18,000 piece of equipment. And it sounds good.
Sounds like
great.
a good investment. Yeah.
Really, yeah, sounds great. Until we ran the hurdle rate. And we said, in order for you to actually spend $18,000, you have to net 36 to 48 in order for his goals to be applied. He wasn't going to net that much.
Right.
He was only going to have profit of about $20,000.
Mm-hmm.
So he was going to he was going to pay his team.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to buy the equipment. He was going to do the job, put his name out there, but he would not accomplish his goals. Therefore, we didn't buy the equipment. That's
Right.
a hurdle rate calculation.
Mm-hmm.
That's finance. And then you have legal, which is what keeps us safe. Insurances, things of that nature. We all have to have those. So again, that's that C personality. So if we're looking at business, and as us business owners, we're trying to grow our business, our capacity, our net worth,
Mm-hmm.
then those 8 areas around that clock face that I just walked everybody through is we're trying to create an equilibrium. We're trying to create an equalization amongst all 8 areas.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you can create an equalization where your legal department, your legal team is just as strong as your marketing team,
Mm-hmm.
and your planning department is just as strong as your hiring and firing of your vendors or customers, et cetera. As soon as you can create that, what you've ultimately done is reduced, here's a technical term, company-specific risk. You've reduced the risk that your particular company will have to an outside investor,
Mm-hmm.
to that person whom perhaps may be interested in Deb and her empire,
Mm-hmm.
who that person may be interested in buying out Justin's empire in the future, because an investor wants to have an ROI, return on investment.
Right.
So whenever you look at that empire that we described, those 8 key areas, there's not a solopreneur who can't achieve
Mm-hmm.
better results. There's not a business owner who, through equilibrium of those 8 areas, can't remove themselves from being have to be the chief bottle washer, janitor, everything else involved.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the framework that I walk clients around or people around. That's actually what we're dealing with in our second book is how do we grow that value?
Right.
Does that make sense? That was a lot of information. I'm sorry.
It does, and I keep thinking about the fact that it really doesn't matter if you're thinking, ultimately I want to sell my business, those are just good, strong business practices.
Correct. That is correct. Ultimately, if we don't ever want to sell our business, that's fine. We
Mm-hmm.
have clients that are like that. They're never going to sell their business. They're going to fold it up one day. Different type model.
Mm-hmm.
So their equity is not their business. Their job, and this is where it gets hard, they have to have actually more discipline than someone like me who's going to sell a business
Right.
again. Their job is to make sure their net worth is doubling every
Mm-hmm.
3 to 5 years through net revenue of their company that
Mm-hmm.
they're saving or reinvesting on the personal level.
Mm-hmm.
That they're not reinvesting into the business. On the
Mhm.
other hand, if they do have a business that has an employee,
Mm-hmm.
more than likely now you have an asset that you can cultivate
Mhm.
and ultimately sell one day. You
Mhm.
can make the ultimate sale.
Right. And it's, I think one of the things that so many people never even consider is this a business I could sell? And part of it, it was funny when you were talking about, some of the steps. I was thinking, some of us become business owners and solopreneurs, entrepreneurs because of ego.
Yeah.
And so it's hard
Right.
for us to turn some of these functions over to someone else, right?
Right.
We've got the, well, I'm the only one that can do it, and I'm certainly the only one that can do it right philosophy. Well, if you have all these processes in place, somebody else should be able to do it. Now, they might do it different. When I hired my VA, my producer, she does things different than what I do, but good golly, they get done and probably better than when I did them. And so I think that's one of the things that as we're going through this process, a business owner has got to let go of is their ego. Well, the business can't survive without me type of concept. And yes, there are certainly businesses where, when the intellectual property is the this person right here,
Right.
that's very different. But if it's any other type of business where someone else could take over, we have to step back and put our ego on hold, or remind our ego, hey, you might get to go vacation more often.
Yeah, there's an old African proverb that I love to quote when I hear this type of concept come up that you're describing, Deb, and that is this: go fast, go alone.
Mm,
Go far, go together.
right.
Old African proverb. It's impactful if you think about it.
Hmm.
I happen as a high D personality and as a business owner of now 4 businesses that I
Hmm.
currently own, I have the attitude that no one can do it as well as I can.
Right.
And that is often my strongest suit, and that's often my weakest suit.
Hmm.
If we're dealing with that solopreneur, then I'm going to actually make a bold statement here. And I think I can quantify this as I'm going through my mind's eye, and I don't think I've ever made this statement before. I am not aware of a business that cannot be sold.
Right.
I'm not
There's
aware of one.
something that's there.
There's goodwill, if nothing
Hmm.
else. So
Hmm.
even I take a solopreneur, for example. I happen to have let's do a case study again.
Hmm.
There's a case study of an individual that happens to have a blog, and it's a national personality.
Hmm.
They have a blog system, and they have no employees. They're a solopreneur.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're a Schedule C, which means they do not have a company, so to speak, an LLC, a S Corp, or C Corp. They're a sole proprietor,
Hmm.
Schedule C employee. We are actually working on those systems so that somebody is actually going to roll it up to a big corporation,
Hmm.
is going to buy their goodwill.
Right.
And this solopreneur, although they have no employees
Hmm.
or no immediate team members, they do have contracts, and they do
Hmm.
have concepts and strategies in place
Hmm.
that allow me to appraise a
Hmm.
this business, and actually end up selling it at
Hmm.
some point in the future. Think of the famous Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar was, a motivator of all motivators. I love
Hmm.
it when he talks about priming the pump. I love that
Hmm.
particular example. If you never heard about it, Google Zig Ziglar priming the pump. It's unbelievable. He actually has Zig Ziglar Enterprises now.
Right.
He was a solopreneur who went
Hmm.
from a sales guy, top sales guy, to
Hmm.
now a motivational speaker that has impacted hundreds of thousands, if not
Hmm.
millions and millions of business owners. On the other side of that, if you do happen to have an employee right now, then you're already one step closer to a higher multiple. A
Hmm.
multiple is the way valuation works. It causes us to get more dollars for our business. If you have an employee, then you're in your mind already recognize that you cannot achieve everything that you want to achieve by yourself.
Right.
And
We
you've
just
taken,
don't know it all.
no, you've taken the risk on, more
Hmm.
importantly, as you said earlier, which I strongly agree with, that you're going to pay this employee. You're taking in their livelihood into your own fiduciary duty as an employer.
Hmm.
You're going to pay their house payment before you pay yours. You're going
Hmm.
to pay their kids before you feed yours. That's the part of that we deal with as business owners. If you're already there, then you can actually take a step back and say, okay, how large do I want to grow this company
Hmm.
toward? Do I want to make it to where I'm working 60, 70 hours a week to where I can get it to where I'm now don't have to work at all and have an annuity-based income stream?
Hmm.
Or do you want to keep it small and never sell it but make high profits?
Hmm.
There's a lot of different strategies. Ultimately, it goes back to where are you at today where do you want to be?
Mhm.
And if you know where you want to be, then those 8 key areas, along with a great, awesome financial plan, can put your personal life in a position to where work is fun.
Mhm.
And it's a privilege. I'm honored that we grew up in a country that we can do what we do, that we can, wake up in the morning and serve those individuals whom we want to
Mhm.
serve.
Right.
I think business ownership is awesome. I think that's who I am.
Mhm. Right. And it's oh, cold tablets made me just lose my train of thought. Gotta love
I'm
that.
sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's it is something that we do that we love. Some people were forced into being entrepreneurs,
Yes.
and various things. But if we continue it, it is because we love it. And train of thought. Look, it came back. Squirrel. Um, as I was thinking about it, I thought, a person like me, I think, well, I am my business. Well, what do? I train. I do all these various things. Okay, so, and what really keyed in was when you were talking about planning.
Right.
So how about if and then we toss in that little thing called technology, some other things.
Yep.
So are there other ways that I can be doing what I do? Webinars, Zoom, things like this, writing books, all these various things. And then maybe I only pick and choose 4 conferences a year to go to. And so I think that's one of the things that, so many business owners really need to stop and think about is that initial planning. What else could I do? How can I change what I do? You look at something as simple as, say, an HVAC person here in Atlanta who, 99% of the time they're doing air conditioning and heating and things like that. But, well, actually, let me take a different tack. Colorado, you're an HVAC person. And so, you've got heating part of the year, you've got air conditioning part of the year, and then you do snow removal.
Yep.
And so, what are the things that you can be adding to your business, changing in your business that gives it that added value? And then that brought me back to thinking about, in your book, when you're talking about how to value a business, which is obviously, the biggest topic. And I love how you compared it with the fact that, it's like selling a house. We look at our house, we love our house, we put, all of this work into our house, we raised kids, we did whatever here. And we always value it more in our heads than what it is truly worth. But the more we can add to it, they tell you, stage your house, do all those various things, the better it is. So let's talk about how to really increase that value of your business so that when a third party, folks, you can't value your business yourself.
Yep.
When that third party person comes in and says, okay, your business is worth X, so what are some things that business people can, some more things that business owners can be doing?
I'm going to take a step back and lay the foundation to answer your question. The very first thing we can do is hire a coach.
Okay.
There's not a successful person that walks this planet that doesn't have a coach. In fact, I know one of my favorite proverbs is, in a multitude of counsel, there is safety. Michael Jordan, arguably the best basketball player of all times, had a coach.
Right. He had several coaches.
Elon Musk has a coach. Everybody has a coach. And the reason for it is, just like whenever I use that example of the real estate, the house, I have the ability to sell a house. I can do this. I have physically built houses, one of my businesses. I know what it's like. I know what it takes. But I hired a real estate agent who was a coach to me and said, Justin, I need you to do these following things because I had one of the 32 biases that we have. I had recency bias in that particular emotional bias to where, everybody should love my house the same way I love my house. Because I've had babies here in this house.
What do you mean you don't like that color of paint?
Correct. So I hire a coach. So the very first thing business owners, in my opinion, should do, if you're in business, solopreneur, entrepreneur, is you need to have a coach on retainer. Michael Phelps, one of my favorite athletes of all times, in the tune of, I don't know him personally, but in the tune of what he did on the Olympics. He made a statement in one of his gold medals. He said, I could not have done this without my coaching team. He had multiple coaches. Interestingly enough, none of them could swim. None of them could swim like him. None of them were national acclaimed coaches. They were just everyday people who could say, hey, Michael, your stroke's off a little bit, buddy. Here's what. Let me show you what you're doing wrong.
Right.
So the first thing I'd say as a coach, the second thing is if you understand what investors are looking for, then you understand what drives the value of the business.
Mm-hmm.
So there are 6 things that investors look at. They look at profitability. Is the business profitable? Unfortunately, that's where we stop as business owners.
Mm-hmm.
We look at the NOI, net operating income of our business, and we say, this is it. There's nothing else for us to do. We are maxed out capacity, and we do not ever challenge the profitability of the company.
Mm-hmm.
So profitability is number one. They want to see if they're going to invest in a business, or if you're going to try to sell the business, what is their ROI going to be for this business?
Mm-hmm.
So profitability, number one. Compatibility, competitive nature of the business. Where are you at in your market share? Are you in the top echelon? Are you in McDonald's of the hamburger world, or are you pick another hamburger chain out there, the mom and pop chain that no one knows about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that one's better than the other. It just means from a marketability from a compatibility standpoint, that McDonald's has a higher profit share on their share per stock, which makes it more attractive to buyers. Scalability. Scalability is the ability to think about you riding in that Corvette that everybody wants to drive, right? You hit the gas and it just takes off.
Mm-hmm.
Or you hit the brakes and it puts your head into the dashboard.
Right.
I mean, it slams at stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's scalability. You can take your business and you can handle 10x the amount of throughput, 10x the amount of customers, 10x the amount of sales contracts, or you just got 10x and now they've dried up because of recession, because of some political change, et cetera. How can you stop it and scale it back without hurting the profitability of the company?
Mm-hmm.
So scalability is one of the biggest things that I see is probably on the weaker areas for business owners. Again, think the McDonald's company. I've used them a couple examples. I try to use the same example over and over during a podcast. The McDonald's brothers made a lot of hamburgers. Ray Kroc made the ability for 16-year-olds to cook French fries without burning the restaurant down, because they had scalability, which is now why they're on just about every country in the world, because they can scale it up. But by having profitability and being competitive and having scalability, then you have to move into sustainability. If you're scalable and you're profitable and you're competitive, then what can this business sustain in a test? If I were going to run a risk test on your business, what would it take for me to put Deb out of business? That's what the investor is going to be looking at. What's it going to take for Justin, for Heritage Investors, for Financially Simple, Heritage Business Advisors? What's it going to take for those businesses to fold? Because that is going to be part of the valuation. So how can we sustain the storm? Again, that goes back to the being prepared for the rainy days, go to the ant slugger, et cetera. Transferability is what I dealt with around that clock. That's the fifth one. Transferability means, are you and I, as business owners, are we at the epicenter of our business? Does everything have to run through us? Are we micromanagers? Are we the benevolent dictator that no one can do anything without our approval or permission? If that's the case, then we don't have a
transferable.
It can't transfer it. So how do we remove you, the business owner, from transferring, from not being able to transfer the business? One of the cardinal mistakes I see whenever I get to this point, when you got somebody who says, hey, I want to sell the business in 5 years, I start asking questions, and the business owner has never taken the time to get what's in their head, those processes that we were talking about earlier. They've never taken the time to delineate that down to a handbook, to a workbook, to, you used the term, which I'm glad you did, intellectual property. They've never created a patent system or created IP on what makes them successful. And so transferability is valuable there. And finally, invulnerability. Invulnerability. What not only can hurt sustainability, what in a short term can change the course of your business? Let's use your example of the HVAC company who wants to do snow removal. Could that perhaps change the course of the business and actually cause problems within the business to where it cannot overcome itself? No one can serve two masters. Anything with two heads is a monster, right? We've heard those before. Most businesses, the simpler we can get in our business about what we're trying to accomplish, the more invulnerable we can be. So if you're trying to grow your business and trying to make the value increase, profitability, competitiveness, scalability, sustainability, transferability, and invulnerability, those are your 6 things that you really have to focus on.
Right. And again, this is just good business practice. you should be thinking, what happens if? There's a TV program that I watch where, the daughter was, she had the lawn business, and, she had her little push lawnmower and she was doing great. Well, then the kid next door, his parent bought the bigger machine.
Yep.
And so, now granted, he didn't have the investment. Dad bought the
Right.
machine, but he could mow quicker,
Mm-hmm.
more, all of those various things, so he could undercut her pricing.
Right.
Technology, of course, is a big thing, and then, if you're a mom and pop type of business, are you the type that, something is going to happen to, are you competing against Amazon, Walmart, all those other things? And so as a business person, you need to just be doing these things all the time. And I want to come back to the fact that, if your business is you, me, I could still be replaced. I mean,
Correct.
and so what do I need to do? You mentioned the fact that you read, all these various things. We need to keep bettering ourselves no matter what, so that we're, it's funny. We want to be replaceable, but we want to be irreplaceable at the same time.
Yeah.
And so there is kind of that dichotomy, but we should always want to continue to be growing and learning.
Let's take that, what you just said, along with the lawnmower business. I like that. Actually remember seeing a show about that. I can't remember where. Maybe it was on. I can't. I'm sorry.
Last Man Standing was the
I
one.
think maybe. Okay, that's where it was. I was like, man, that seems familiar to me. I like to use an analogy, and you're welcome to use this in the future, of the hair cutting salon, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've all heard of the super cuts, the fast cuts, the quick
Mm-hmm.
cuts, and there's nothing against it. It's a great
Right.
franchise model. Unbelievable. All of a sudden, you have this hometown hero that has been there, and they have the little swirly candy cane thing out
Mm-hmm.
front that's swirling around. It's a barber shop, and man, everybody knows that you'd go there, and
You go
they've
for
been
the
doing,
gossip and the
you
coffee and
go.
everything else.
All of
Mhm.
a sudden, the Supercuts comes across the street. I'm not picking on Supercuts. I'm just using that as an example
Right.
here. They come across the street, and they have their grand opening. We've all seen it, with a little swaggly arm guy out there that's all
Mhm.
dancing everywhere. And they say, we do $7 haircuts. And before you know it, clientele's going to move
Right.
from mom and pop
Mhm.
over to now the new business. And it
And
happens on
it's
every
not
front.
that they don't love mom and pop. It's $7 haircuts.
Well, but here's the way you combat that. And no matter what business you're in, it goes back to what we call the Ansoff matrix. So let me give you the result, then we'll come back and explain the Ansoff
Mhm.
matrix. What mom and pop does is simple. They put a sign out front that says, we fix $7 haircuts.
I love it. Perfect.
It's all that goes back to the marketing
Mhm.
strategy. It doesn't mean that you're going to get everybody who left you before more for price
Right.
conscientious, but you're now going to identify those who are after quality. So
Mhm.
Garrett,
Right.
there goes the Ansoff matrix. So I like hunting. I have I think about maybe a peace symbol or a crossbow, or
Mhm. Mhm.
like a triangle, if you will. Okay. On the bottom left-hand side of a triangle or a peace symbol or an arrow, we're going to deal with the cost conscientious person. Those are your Walmarts. Those are your Supercuts.
Mhm.
Those are the people who are putting a lot of product. They have a small profit margin,
Mhm.
but they're trying to push a lot of people through their system.
Right.
High turnover, low price.
Mhm.
Okay. That's the bottom left-hand side. The top of the triangle, the top of the arrowhead there would be the R&D, research and development. That's your
Mhm.
Apple. They're creating products that no one else has. They're seeing a need, and they're
Mhm.
feeling it. Then you have the bottom right-hand side, and that is those who are customer centric.
Mhm.
Those are your Nordstroms of the world. Those are your LL Beams. Those are your Cabela's of the world, right?
Right.
Those are some hunting stores, by the way, for those of you not familiar. Those are the people of the world who are like grandma, grandpa in that mom and pop store, who are providing quality to a small group.
Mhm.
For business owners, where do you want to be?
Mhm.
What I find is that everybody wants to have that customer centric side,
Mhm.
but they want to compete on price, and you cannot do it, folks.
Right.
You cannot do it. So you go back to, what are investors looking for?
Mhm.
People are not interested. I'm going to say that. Let me say it differently. I find it on the mergers and acquisition world that very few people are looking for the massive low cost providers.
Mhm.
I find that very seldom. What I find is that investors are looking for that competitive advantage that makes Deb different than Justin.
Mhm.
And they want to grab whatever that is from Deb's world and put it into their world and get a market advantage from a higher price point.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be customer centric. So those of you who are business owners out there and you're listening to all this garbly-goo that I'm spouting out, hey, look, you can get to where you want to be. That's the goal of all this today.
Mm-hmm.
You can get to where you want to be. You have to know where it is you want to be. You have to have a team around you who is going to kick you, drag you, push you to get you where you want to be. And as you're doing this, you're identifying, as Deb, as you've clearly said, those basic business concepts that are just, these are simple, folks. I'm taking 25 years of reading business books. In fact, I walked into the Books A Million. I looked at the bookshelf and there wasn't a book on there I haven't read and highlighted through. It's crazy on the business section. I'm taking 20 years of business knowledge and breaking it down to the simple fundamental truths that all of us can do, whether we're solopreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
whether we're C companies who run $100 million companies, deal with some of those, whether it's that business is business. It doesn't matter if we're a podcast host or if we're charging the world.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter. So I hope these helped you today and your
Mm-hmm.
listeners, Deb, with everything we've got. I think we're getting close on time. So
We are, and we still have so much to talk about. And you have an upcoming book, so that just means we have to have you on again. Tell us, is your book available on Amazon?
it is, yeah. So the Ultimate Sale is available on Amazon and Audible. If you want to listen to me for like 7 hours and you're driving, just don't do it while you're driving. You might drive into the ditch. But they're available on Amazon. What I would say is Amazon.com for the purchase of the book or Audible, or check out Financially Simple. That's the hub.
Mm-hmm.
Financially Simple is the hub. We have courses that are available through that program there.
A lot of great resources, and tons of wonderful information there.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we have an awesome team behind the scenes that are very, very talented. These guys and gals are pretty amazing in what they do.
In Knoxville, Tennessee.
That's correct. That's correct.
Well, Justin, this has been great. And, I want to emphasize again that it's great information for anybody. And even if you're just, the little person who's doing, some little Etsy product, you never know. It might turn into something bigger, or maybe it's just something that's going to pay a portion of your next vacation.
That's
I mean,
right.
all of these various things, but it does take planning. Warren Buffett didn't get to be Warren Buffett just by going, hey, let's try this today. The people really do plan. And it's funny I say that because I'm not a planner. But the important thing is I follow exactly what you say. I have people around me that make me do these things. So again, your information is at financiallysimple.com. So I encourage people to go there and really check that out. What final thoughts do you have for us?
There's an old story that I love from Cortez who said, burn the boats. I love that statement. And the story was Cortez put his men in the battle days. He put his men he put the enemy between his men and their home. He turned around and he said, burn the boats, burn the ships is what he actually said. They set all the ships on fire. The idea being that the only way those soldiers were going to see their families again was through the enemy. The only way. There was no turning back.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I leave you with this is we're business owners. There's no turning back. We've already burnt the boats.
Right.
We're invested blood, sweat, and tears into what our product or our service is, and those customers and those vendors and our team members whom we know and know, trust, and love.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you're going to reach your goal, whatever your goal is to go through that obstacle that's either you're facing today or that you will face tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And as business owners, I've been doing this too long. I know how frustrating it is. I know how tiring it is. There is a victory to be won. Just don't stop. Make sure you burn every ship that's going to hold you back and charge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Forward. We always need to be moving forward.
That's correct.
Well, this really has been fascinating. And Justin has such great information. Again, the book is The Ultimate Sale, a financially simple guide to selling a business for maximum profit. The website is at financiallysimple.com. I'm Deb Creer. I've been having a wonderful time talking with Justin Goodbread. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.